Wednesday walkabout, and it's great to see a few people here. Once again, I'll just do you a few pictures so you can see. You can see the picture's been relayed, and it's looking really good at the moment. So I think the weather's been perfect, because we had when it was first done, they had a lot of rain on it, and then the sun's been helping it grow since. So I think you could almost be ready to play on that now. So nice to see a few people here for walkabout. It's time for our latest catch-up with Ian. Just before we start, Ian, just a few general comments about how much people are appreciating the fact that you do these and you're talking to the fans, because it's something we've not always been used to, so they're giving us some good feedback for this, so long may they continue, and thank you for that. Good. Okay.
I blame you for that.
Well, we did have quite a few questions this time. One thing with Ian, he never likes to see the questions in advance, so he always goes off the cuff here, so I'm going to go through them, but we have had quite a few, which is good because people are taking the interest, so I'm going to go through them pretty much in order that we received them. A long time ago, when Darren was here, he mentioned about having a 3G pitch over on KGV. Can you give us an update? Did that ever come to anything?
We had many talks with the council, with KGV, and tests done to the ground. But there was an issue with the peat content. There's nothing to say that that's completely off the table. But we are still in conversations with the council, who are still fully behind the idea. We are still fully behind the idea. We are just kind of not putting our eggs in one basket at the moment. We're looking at different options, different locations, and different potential partners. Because the peat content in the soil is a problem which seems to be a problem for a lot of the area of Southport.
Yeah.
So trying to find an area which hasn't got that problem is the first pressing concern. We think we have found a couple of potential areas, but obviously from a time perspective, that's the delay, is that finding somewhere where you can actually do this before you can start talking about then how we do it and why and how.
Yeah.
But it's not off the table. COVID has obviously put delays on everything like that in relation to the council got other priorities for the last 12 months. But things are getting slightly more back to normal, so we can get those conversations back on the table and see where it takes us.
Smashing. Okay, thanks for that one. I'm going to skip a couple here, just doing more of a general one. Somebody suggested it'd be nice to have a total no smoking ban within the ground. They say a lot of Premier clubs have done it and so on and so on. Is that something we could consider in conjunction along with the National Health Service?
Well, at the moment we are obviously guided by our safety certificate, and the safety certificate says that we cannot have smoking under covered areas, so jack car, main stand, but we can in the open areas. Mm-hmm. The smoking or not to smoke is it's one of those issues where really we are guided by the feelings of the fans. I can genuinely say that in the last 2 years, that's the first query that's been raised of that nature. Mm-hmm. And it's very similar to the catering side of the club, in the sense of, we know we can never keep every fan happy. No. We have to kind of listen to the majority voice. We have to listen to what the concerns are. Catering wise, we tried to find, fans wanted something a little bit different to burgers and hot dogs, so yeah, we looked for something which is different, so we tried the hog roast. I appreciate that is not going to satisfy the vegans stroke vegetarians of the fan base. But again, we have to look at the amount of complaints that we get in or don't, and the general feedback across the fan base. Smoking is, as I say, this is the first time that's been raised as an issue. And if it's the case that one fan is not particularly happy about the smoking scenario, whereas 999 are, yeah, it doesn't leave us kind of much room to play. Yeah. It's something now which has been raised, and we'll continue to monitor on a regular basis. Yeah. And try and gauge the feeling of the other fans who maybe haven't wanted to come forward to say something. So it's on our kind of, it's been brought to our attention, so we can keep an eye on that and see what happens.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, the vast majority of the things we've got asked are around management, players, signings. I'm sure you're expecting all this one. So, the first one is Liam back on the job now, and has he got a suitable list of potential experience and realistic players that he wants to sign?
Liam always has a list of potential players that he wants to sign.
365 days a year, I think.
Yeah, Liam's list generally does start kind of mid-December, and then we get put under pressure from there on in to get those deals tied up. I've never known Liam not to have a little WhatsApp page on his phone where he hasn't got a list of players that he's looking at and thinking about. As regards him being on the job, no, he's not. But we talk every day. I can probably confirm, although I'm not giving any names, but we did actually sign 2 players last night. Mm-hmm. We've got another 3 or 4 that we are talking about and talking to seriously. There's another 2 or 3 beyond that who Liam obviously has to make his mind up. But we're still in that kind of time period at the moment where, in addition to Liam's list, we also get the odd 1 or 2 potentials and surprises that we didn't factor into our list. I think we had this conversation this time last year when we had tried to sign Marcus Carver. He was contracted and we dropped interest, and then all of a sudden Marcus Carver became available again. Yeah. So that changed our plans slightly.
Is the furlough situation making things difficult with all this? I know we've got to be careful with the announcements and things, but is that one of the things that's hindering us, Ian?
Well, it does make things difficult. It makes things difficult because Liam as a manager is furloughed. John McCarthy as an assistant is furloughed. So I'm having far more chats with people than I wanted to or needed to in the past. Administratively, it's been difficult because James has been furloughed until obviously we've now got Frank who started, who's learning the ropes. But we are very much throwing him in the deep end now with 2 new contracts that we agreed last night, and so he's having to kind of hit the ground running to administratively catch up to where we should have been if furlough wasn't an issue. Yeah. As I say, Liam as manager is furloughed, Liam as director, we talk on a daily basis about what direction we're going in and what players that we're looking at.
Yeah. Knowing Liam as we have done over the years, his style isn't always what people appreciate at the club, but he does a fantastic job on what we've got, and I get surprised when people are asking about Liam. Do you want to make a few comments about that?
It's been. I think you've got to work with Liam to appreciate how much he does for Southport and how much it's kind of. I think he must wake up thinking about Southport and go to bed thinking about Southport, because the amount of times he rings me a day to talk about Southport is unbelievable. And there's no one kind of more committed to where we are as a club, either as a manager and as a director. I don't accept for 1 second any of the comments that you see on social media about there being a difficulty in dealing with both aspects of the job, because if anything I think it really helps Liam the manager that he understands the financial positions and the politics behind what's going on at boardroom level. He knows exactly what we've got to work with and what our expectations are moving forward. And he also there's kind of double the ambition to do well, because he wants to do well as a manager, and he wants to do well as the board of Southport FC. Yeah. So I don't accept for 1 second any difficulty as regards to crossover there. I think it just gives him a hell of a lot more understanding into what position the club is at on any one day than the normal manager might have at our level. Yeah.
Another follow-on to that, really, accepting this isn't easy by any means. Are there any signs of new revenue coming into the club at any point?
Not in the sense of new revenue from new investors. We're at that stage of the season now where we are kind of all systems go, trying to get enough, as many sponsors on board as we can from last season. It's not an easy position to be in, because we appreciate that obviously the sponsors supported us all last season, And it's difficult to do that when they're not able to come to the
Yeah.
game and they're not able to kind of feel the full effect of the sponsorship. You know, hopefully they appreciate that the sponsorship was still out there in the sense of, you know, the good streaming system that we had. Everton FC TV, obviously, you know, they filmed all their games, and the sponsors will have got a lot of ability to get their name out there in that respect. But we owe a huge amount to the sponsors who are kind of backing the club out of a love for the club, and that community spirit which we've talked about so many times in the last 2 or 3 years. So, you know, we are looking to develop the sponsorships that we have in the sense of finances. But also, obviously, we've brought in Tony Evans onto the board, and although Tony hasn't been able to get involved to date, it was always the plan that Tony would get involved as we began to prepare for the new season, you know, kind of mid-June onwards, because the whole purpose of Tony coming onto the board was that he will open up links to new potential commercial sponsors who maybe haven't been involved with Southport before. Maybe they are more kind of national based or international based, and if that produces new sources of income from new sponsors, brilliant. That's kind of what he's been involved for. It's not, you know, what we've had to do administratively to get us to this point through the last season. You know, he's not been involved in board decisions to date in the sense of what players Liam does or doesn't want, or how we deal with the appeals with the National League. You know, he's very much kind of going to really come to the fore mid-June, July onwards, in the sense of trying to bring in new commercial deals. And then, you know, he will be a new set of eyes as to what Liam and I are doing with the team and the players, because Tony has lots of links to grassroots football around Liverpool, around Sefton, and I've got no doubt, knowing Tony, that he will come to us with a full list of players he thinks himself that we should be looking at.
So you'll have two lots of lists. You'll have Liam's list and you'll have Tony's list coming your way.
If it works, then it works and everyone's happy. But yeah, I mean, we'll certainly see more involvement from him kind of moving forward once he's able to get involved.
You preempted one of the questions there because somebody asked about Tony's involvement, so that's good. I think we've answered this one before, but we'll go say it again. Can you reveal if we definitely have a percentage interest in any sell-on of Dion Charles? Yes.
It's a real balancing act that Liam and I play in the sense of players, because obviously when we have the likes of Dion and Devon, you know, do we try to get as much money as we can at that stage at the time that we sell them, or do we can look at it on a long-term basis and instead factor in a sell-on clause? It depends who we're doing business with. But the view that Leo and I both share is that, you know, we may well be able to sell Dion from a National League North level for, say, you know, 20,000, 25, 30, 35,000, which is a good deal for any National League North side. There's not many players at this level who do sell for more than that. Or alternatively, do we kind of trust in our own thoughts about Dion's ability and sell him to a club where maybe we might not get as much at the time of sale, but we get a sell-on clause with a full view to trust in ourselves that Dion will come good, and there's far more likelihood of Accrington selling Dion on to a Championship club than there is from a Championship club buying him from a National League North club. And that's kind of where we hedge our bets. So yes, Dion has a sell-on clause, just as Morgs does, and Devon, and that's kind of how we've tried to do our business wherever possible.
Yeah, good.
So that's what Dion does really well, and that's how we get a good move in the summer.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Yeah, well, there are rumours flying around, aren't there? But there's rumours about every single player in the football pyramid at the moment, I think, isn't there? Compared to the I think we touched on this, really, but just reiterate. Compared to the two previous seasons, how much are SFC finances impacting the assembling of Liam's desired squad? You have touched on that, really, but is it an issue, the financial side?
No. I mean, it's like everything else, and like, you know, the majority of the clubs in the league at the minute, we've had no income whatsoever for 12 months. You know, we would we worked really, really hard the season before last to get ourselves from a position where the club was in debt to a position where we were at the very least breaking even. We managed that. You know, we worked, everyone here, Liam, James, myself, Christine, Hamish, you know, all the volunteers, we all worked really, really hard to kind of get the club back on an even keel. And I say that was managed. Last season was going to be the season where we really push on, both in terms of making that balanced position grow into one where we're actually working at a profit, in respect of sales of players and hopefully you know, fans coming in through the door, coupled with the huge takeoff that we were having with the hospitality and events. You know, because this you know, a year ago we were looking at events every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, christenings on a Sunday. You know, we were in a position where we were stopping fans from coming into the bar after the game on a Saturday because we had an event straight after. It was great. You know, we had a large rota of bar staff because we needed them, and we were really starting to see the profit from that area grow to the benefit of the club. And obviously the rug was pulled under us, under us, as it was for clubs at our level across the country. And we've gone back to a position where, you know, the finances that we had and were improving were used on, you know, bringing the stadium up to the correct levels for COVID. You know, we had the whole of January without any grant money, where we were having to still pay wages. So I would have rather be sat here now on the back of 12 months of a good season and good hospitality and making profit, but we're not. That said, we've not got any kind of financial concerns at all in that respect.
Good.
Liam's budget is not any less than it has been for the last couple of seasons. And we are just in a situation where we're trying to get everything back up to where we were. I've already mentioned, I think the commercial sponsorships is a big part of that. Season ticket sales have started, and they will never be more important to help the club get back to where it should be, because literally every penny will help towards budgets and getting where we are. But there are a lot of clubs at our level who are kind of looking behind and worried about the debt that they've had to get into to get to this point, whereas we're effectively just starting again. You know, and we're starting again without any debt.
I think we're in a better position than some clubs, aren't we? When you see what's going on, you know.
No, without a shadow of a doubt, and that's obviously what has led to the whole position we're in over National League decisions to fine clubs and having to appeal and you know, everything else, because clubs were in a position where they actually genuinely could not afford to play another game. And we were never at that position, we were never at that level, but other clubs were, and whilst they were, we were fully happy to support them in the noises they were making to the National League.
I'm going to come on to that now. I'm saving that one till the last, so that if he says too much, we can cut it out then, you see. So a couple of little things. As we've worked to freshen the squad, it's our experience that players are more or less likely to consider moving between clubs, considering the various implications of COVID. An interesting question, that, really. Do you think players will be a little bit more cautious about moving between clubs?
I'm trying to be careful now. My experience is that players will go wherever best suits them. Full stop. COVID, I don't think COVID's an issue. I think they will go wherever the deal is best. There are exceptions to that. There are always exceptions. But in the main, you know, these are players who, you know, it's National League North, it's their income, they need their income to support their families. Just like any other job, they will go where it best suits them in their position at any one time. I don't really understand how COVID will factor into that.
You mentioned season tickets before, Ian. We've had a decent start, haven't we, considering people are being cautious at the moment because we're waiting to see what players have been signed, we're waiting to see whether the season actually will start, and we've had 2 seasons where it hasn't finished now. I think we can understand that, but are you pleased with the sale so far?
No, I can completely understand why people are cautious. And you know, my understanding is that the sales were up to 100 or so after the first week.
Yeah.
And again, it's massive gratitude from everyone on the board to those people who have bought season tickets, because it's not only trusting that the season will start, but those people are saying to us, look, you know, either way, we're kind of putting our money behind the club and helping you to get where we need to be.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm not surprised by that, because when we offered to refund season tickets last season, I think we only had one person who did actually request a refund.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not surprised by that, but that doesn't take away from the gratitude from myself, Liam, Potsy, and Tony as towards those fans.
Yeah.
I appreciate that it is a difficult decision, because not only are people cautious and waiting to see what happens, but they're also themselves individually recovering from whatever situation the COVID has left them in. Obviously, you know, I'm bound to say the club needs the support of as many people as possible, and you know, whatever comes in season ticket sales will obviously be going towards paying for Liam's budget and the players.
Yeah.
So you know, we do need as much support as possible. And again, it's a massive thank you to everyone out there who has bought season tickets to date and are going to over the course of the next month or two.
Brilliant. Okay. Should we do it then? National League, Ian. The steel will come out your ears when we talk about this. I know we're waiting today, I think, aren't we, for the appeal to be heard? And
I have to be careful.
I know you do.
Because the decision hasn't been made.
No.
And I could talk all day about, you know, my thoughts on the National League. And every time I think about this question and I kind of try to think what you're going to ask me. I talk to Claire about it, and she tells me off and says, you can't say anything like that.
Yeah.
So, you know, to be diplomatic, I think there's a massive kind of unfortunate sense of irony and hypocrisy behind what the National League have done in relation to their approaches to both appeals. You know, on the one hand, we've filed, you know, we were doing our best to protect our players and follow the protocol. And we think we did that, and our appeal suggests that we think we did that. Whereas kind of, you know, within a matter of a week or two after the National League themselves in relation to the Darlington game, we're in my opinion, trying to push us aside from the protocol to get the game on.
Yeah.
And you know, the same with Curzon. You know, we are all members of the National League. I think in the time of pandemic, when thousands are dying per day, I think there's an obligation on the member clubs to at least try to look after each other. And the feedback we got from the National League by way of their response to our appeal suggested that shouldn't have been our concern. You know, I'm guarded as to what I say, because I'm also very sceptical about the whole appeals process, whereby we are appealing a decision of a National League to a National League panel appointed by the National League, which you make your own decision there.
The bit I can't understand is that a National League are going to fine a club which could put that club potentially, maybe not us, but out of business, or put them in absolute severe financial difficulty. I can say that, can't I? But you might not want to comment on that. But to me, it just seems ridiculous.
That's it gets even more ridiculous when you consider that the whole reason that the clubs are in that financial position in the first place is because the National League put us in that position by starting the season when they were assuring us that we would have financial support through the course of the whole season if we needed it. And then we get to December and guess what? We haven't got that financial support, and that's not our fault, that's the National League's fault. Yeah. So the very people who put us in that position where we're having to not play games for financial reasons was the National League, and then they're going to fine us even though they put us in that position. You know, the whole thing gets more ridiculous the more you think about it. All that I will kind of say on the subject is that, you know, the decisions are out today. I'm obviously very sceptical as to how much the FA will consider our arguments or not, and then we need to move on. Once the decision has been made, I think I'll be well within my right to kind of make available to anyone who wants to spend 3 hours at bedtime reading, looking through what our appeal and the National League response consisted of, and then I'm quite happy for fans, if we choose to do that, to make their own decision. I'm not going to sit here saying, you must say this or you must think that, or try and convince everyone that I'm right, because I might be wrong. And maybe we should have played the Curzon game and just took it on the chin, or maybe we shouldn't have appealed and took it on the chin. People can make their own decision. But I don't see any issue with me kind of releasing that after the event.
No.
I'm not promising you, because I know you'll be on straight away.
I'll be straight on to you,
but it's certainly something that we can think about doing.
Yeah.
I mean, I do want to say, moving forward, I would like to get back in a position with the National League where we can actually work together, as we should be working
It's
together.
essential, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to be involved in ongoing running battles with the National League over every issue. We want National League members to feel free to come to the Pure Stadium on a Saturday afternoon and then sit down and have a coffee.
Without being booed by the fans.
Or booed by the directors. I'd much rather give them kind of a nice meal in the boardroom rather than giving them a cheese sandwich outside because we don't like them. And we need to start working together, but that works both ways. And the whole approach from them after the vote of no confidence doesn't help the situation. But the olive branch is still out to everyone at the National League to kind of put this behind us, and a lot will be determined on how they act after the decision is made by the appeals of the FA as to how we go moving forward.
Try and work together.
Yeah.
Just to finish on a bit more cheery thing, I know we can't announce one, but we have got some very attractive friendlies coming up, haven't we?
Yes.
And a nice little pre-season. There's one which we're dying to get out, but we're on hold at the moment, as you know. But
yeah, I mean, Liam and I have tried to balance pre-season between sensible games which will actually enable us to judge where we are at as a team, and then what can only be described as money spinners for the club, because we could do with the money, please. Thank you very much. So there are at least 3 or 4 friendlies in there which we are quite unashamedly saying we're going to try and make as much money as we can out of this, whilst they will still be very, very good tests for the team. And there are another 3 or 4 friendlies in there which everyone can see that we are doing. We've made those friendlies to give Liam the opportunity to see where he's at as a team, and to see kind of where we go moving forward. The one thing I would obviously like to add to that is in relation to Liam and the team as a whole, because hopefully this will be the first real opportunity that Liam has had to have a proper pre-season, put together the team that he really wants to put together and move forward with that. Last pre-season was quite farcical for a number of reasons. I think it's the longest pre-season we've ever had, and it was a pre-season based on we might be starting, we might not. Let's see what happens. We started the season well, and as things started to become apparent whereby we wanted to make changes, every conversation that I had with Liam was starting on the basis of, is it worth us bringing new players in if we think this league is going to be curtailed? The league started in October, and by November we were already suspecting that the league wasn't going to finish. So from a financial perspective and from a management of the club perspective, if Liam is coming to me in November, December saying I could do with new players here, there and everywhere, I'm going to be saying to him, what's the point, because the season's going to get curtailed. We were both, and James, the 3 of us were really strong in our belief that that season was not going to finish, and that was apparent from November because of the lockdown, and even more so from December because the promise of further funds coming were getting quieter by the day. So we were really concerned as to what was going to happen with the season, where it was going. And so that I think the whole situation was difficult and took away from Liam the ability to really kind of push the team on and build the team as to where he wanted to go. Liam and I have many conversations based on the need to build a secure team, in the sense that we want the team to be able to gain promotion into the National League and not come straight back down.
Yeah.
We've looked extensively at how Stockport have built their team over a period of time, how Chorley built their team over a period of time, how they gain promotion on that basis. And you then compare that to the likes of the teams who are spending a hell of a lot of money at this level to go up and haven't. York do it every year. Boston have been doing it. Spennymoor, they've got budgets which make your eyes water thinking about it, and they haven't gone up. We could wax lyrical all day about Fylde and 2022.
Yeah.
It just simply doesn't happen that you buy your way up. And for that reason, we discussed 2 years ago now building a young team with prospects, which we could develop each year to build into a really strong team. Yeah. We, as I said, we looked at Chorley, we looked at how they made it up into the National League, and we also looked at the reasons they came straight back down.
Yeah.
Because it's all very well building a team over time, but if that time means that your team are then average age 34, 35 when they go up, they haven't got the legs, they're going to come straight back down.
Struggle.
So our plan all along was to build a team based on youth, which would develop in time, and obviously the last 12 to 15 months has not helped that at all. But we are where we are now. We're still confident that that's the way to go, and that's how Liam and I are working. We'll be able to announce a couple of new signings any day, presumably. Yeah. And hopefully another 4 to 5 to follow, at least.
Yeah. Well, the 14th of August is not that far away, is it? So I'm sure we just want to see people in the ground and, all the Southport fans back together. It's a social thing as well, isn't it? And I think that's important that we get that back.
It is. And it's great, days like today where I can literally make it about 10 yards around the ground just because so many people want to talk, but that's great. Yeah. We can turn up, we know the volunteers are there, turning up on a daily basis, making the ground back to what it should be. Yeah. Claire and I and the girls will be able to come down a lot more now lockdowns have been lifted and chat to as many people as possible and talk to everyone. Plans are being put in place for our fans evening in August as well. Yeah. And hopefully we just get back to normal.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks very much, Ian.